I've been wanting to do this for a while. I have so much on my mind to say, and I don't know, I guess I just went ahead doing it and not saying what I need to say. So, I know this is the hard part, is starting, so with it. So, I guess I need to talk about my relationship, and I don't know, it's just completely difficult. It just feels like it wasn't meant to be, and I really do like Elijah a lot, and I think that he is very talented, and I think that he has the ability to comprehend and understand. I just think that there's something going on with him that makes him not trustworthy. He seems completely untrustworthy. I don't know if it's because I was married before and he hasn't been. And I have children from my previous marriage. But I feel that when I got married, the first time, it wasn't real. I was very immature. Even more than being immature, I was unknowledgeable. I was caught up in the same kind of deal that a lot of young people seem to be caught up in, who don't have knowledge of self, I guess is what I want to say. So now, I feel like I am enlightened now, and that same person, I just don't feel like I'm even the same person at all. I've gone through a lot spiritually, and I thank God for it, and I thank God for me being able to know so much and be the type of person who craves knowledge and can see the truth and understands the importance of the truth. And I thank God for giving me boldness to speak the truth. And so, at one point, I was going through a spiritual transformation, and I started understanding a lot of things, like, why, when I was younger, I had a tendency to be more promiscuous, and now I understand that I felt that way or acted in that way because that is the trend that has been set from my history. And I learned a lot of things about my grandparents and my great-grandparents and my great-great-grandparents, and I learned that they were very mistreated, and to a very large degree, and they were hurt and treated like they were not human, and they were raped a great deal, and that sexual tendency seems to be something that is being passed down. I mean, it really hasn't been that long. Um, you know, my great grandmother had a lot to do with raising me, and I'm pretty sure that her great grandmother was probably born in bondage. And so, of course I don't know her or of her or her name or have any records of any of my lineage, because that was intentionally destroyed. So I'm going off of what I know from what I've read about history, and I know that I come from a black family, and this is what I've learned about the history of black people, and I've heard stories. I read on a website, Slave Narratives is a great website from the Library of Congress, where they went and interviewed a ton of people who were born in slavery, and they wrote down their stories. And so I learned a lot, and there's stories from all over the country. And so I read some from the place where I'm from. I read some stories that people told from Wake County, North Carolina. I read some from Durham County, which is where I am now. And I mean, universally, I read a lot of them from all over the country. And for the most part, what I see is that people were being very mistreated. They were being, there were laws in this country, in the United States, laws that were made to make it so my ancestors were, stripped of everything and, thrown to, just intentional stuff that, like laws, like, the law that said that my ancestors were not allowed to read. And if they got caught reading, or if someone got caught teaching them to read, that person would go to jail, and my ancestor may lose his or her life. How could it be justifiable to take away someone's freedom to read, to gain knowledge? How could that be legal? How could a system that's supposed to be set up, for the people and by the people, and, all that, how could that allow for an entire group of people characterized by biological terms? How could that system allow that group to, how could it allow for that knowledge to be stripped? How could it allow for how could people vote to agree to make it illegal for someone to read? What kind of thinking goes into that, and the problem is that we're still under that system, and there's supposedly a document that changed, that whole structure, but there was an entire system that was built by people who thought it was okay to agree to make it illegal for a group of people to read. And this entire system, it has been made by those people, and it hasn't been changed. I mean, there's there's like one line in the actual legal paperwork, for how this system works. There's one line that changes anything, that where later they went back and changed it so that couldn't happen. But it's one sentence that is supposed to undo all of everything that was created to to establish this country. And I just don't get it. Like, why haven't things been rewritten? Why are people walking around like it's okay that it's still the same? With an exception for one line, the so-called 14th Amendment, which says that it's okay to, or it's not okay to enslave someone unless they're a criminal. So it's legal to enslave someone if they're a criminal, but if they're not a criminal, then it's not legal. And that's the 14th Amendment. That's the only line that, that legally actually changed the entire way that this country was built, off of making rules such as that my grandparents weren't allowed to read, or it was illegal for them to read. So, I mean, even the 14th Amendment, even now, people are lots of my people are being called criminals. So, obviously, nothing's changed. It's just done in a different way now. Now, the whole way to support slavery and how enslavement has built the entire infrastructure of this very powerful nation, the most powerful nation in the world. The way to continue to maintain that infrastructure is to not legally, enslave anybody based on their biological makeup, or the color of their skin, whatever. Now, not just anybody based on the color of their skin is being enslaved. Now it's it's a whole effort to make people into criminals so that they can be arrested and go to prison, and then provide free labor, then be a slave. So nothing's changed. It's just different, and that is knowledge for me. I don't get how we can how we can have a black president and, this is the commander-in-chief. I'm pretty sure he knows what I'm saying right now is true. I'm pretty sure he knows that. So, how could he rule for 8 years with this knowledge? So I guess he's profiting off of slavery as well. So it doesn't bother him. I mean, now he's not black anymore. I mean, now he's not going to be enslaved or whatever for being black. So now he is able to profit from the system of slavery. I mean, it doesn't even look like he has ties to slavery. I don't even think that he has, his ancestry. If anything, his ancestry is a lineage from his ancestors and grandparents were slaveholders. So, and then his father's from Africa. So, I mean, he was affected in a way where people were taken from them and put into bondage, but his ancestors were not necessarily in bondage. So if it's like that, and if he's on that level, then then he's profiting from the system of slavery. So now